Maybe it's because I'm an adult now and I actually know what's real and what's not, but I can't be the only one. Is it just me, or are scary movies these days, just horror films, the entire horror genre, absolutely terrible? Scary movies suck these days. Now, I grew up as a child, okay, I'm a 90s baby. I grew up watching the most gruesome, most horrible, most terrifying shit. Not only in films as horror films, as they were labeled and promoted, but I also, again, like I grew up like in the age of information. That's when the internet was starting to become like about. I sound so old. I was born in '95, right? So we would have things like snuff films. Like my dad, literally, when I would go visit my dad in his house, he would have literally tapes of this series called Faces of Death. Now some people say like it could be fake. Some people say like no, that was real. And like in Faces of Death, it's literally snuff films. Like I literally saw people die when I was 10 years old watching these movies, which is so crazy and disturbing. I grew up on the internet a lot, right? Me and my friends at school, we would be like, because I'm from Ohio, we'd be, Googling the Crybaby Bridge, Cincinnati haunted houses, cornfields. We're talking about the ghost of Cincinnati, Ohio, Bloody Mary. Just doing all this background research on freaking the Candyman and how he got that name, and whatever happened to Bloody Mary's baby. It was just a whole bunch of shit that I just grew up with. Like, I'm not like a dark person, but I ain't gonna lie, as a kid, it's like I had an obsession with like death and everything dark. That's why I just had a attraction to horror movies. I still kind of do, but again, like horror movies these days just suck. And also, like my dad, he had no filter. He would let me watch all kind of shit. He put me on to Hellraiser, Pinhead, the crazy shit. This is like the good shit that I actually like watching growing up as like a kid. With me and my little cousins, like we were just bad as fuck. And we would be like watching movies like The Mangler. I remember that. If you ever seen the, if you ever seen the movie The Mangler, like those women that were working in like that factory and like the machine like came to life and it would literally eat them alive, and like it would like they would get their hands stuck in a machine and like it would literally mangle them to death. That shit was terrifying. But I remember watching that. I was like 6 years old with my cousins, my brother, and it was just so much good memories like that stems from that, like the childhood nostalgia of watching such terrifying movies at that young age and how it shaped me to be. Because as a child, it gave me a lot of problems watching these scary movies like any other child would, right? So even though I was attracted to it and I was very curious about darker things in the world, when it came to scary movies, like I would be so scared to like sleep at night by myself. Like I would beg my mom or my sister or brother to let me sleep with them in their bed. And eventually they stopped doing it. They were just like, it's just Geneva, it is what it is. You're on your own. Nobody told you to watch those movies. I remember watching The Exorcist when I was 7 years old with both my mom and dad. And I watched 13 Ghosts that same year with my mom and dad. They sent me right to my fucking room. They did not care about none of that. I had to sleep with my light on. I ain't had no night light at that time. I slept with my light on barely, and I was like in like little movement, a creak. I hear like a sound. Somebody breathes too loud. I was just like on edge. Cause, like I just watched The Exorcist. Like if you've seen like The Exorcist, I'm talking about the one from like the 70s. Her head, turning around in a circle. That still it's burned images of that shit in my head to this day. Okay, 13 Ghosts. That shit was terrifying. I think I might name this video in like in in honor of that movie 13 Ghosts, because 13 Ghosts to this day, that was a classic scary movie. So it was some classic scary movies that I liked back then. Okay, again, the emphasis is back then. The shit that's coming out nowadays, I can't get with. Like, I can't even really tell you what scary movies are out right now, because I don't think there are any like that's coming out like right now, because again, like we're getting to summertime. Scary movies don't usually come out in the summer. It's usually like in the fall time, during Halloween. But I would say the last scary movie that I watched, it was scary-ish, and my mom actually put me on, was called Midnight Summer. Midsummer. That's what it was. It's like a thriller, right? Really, really different. It's not like dark and horror and scary and gory, but it's like this girl in Midsummer, she goes to Europe to travel because her sister committed suicide. I guess she wanted a fresh, brand new start. Everything is like in the open. It's like it's light. Everything happens in the middle of the day, but it's like it's kind of gruesome, like how the people. It's a cult. But yeah, that was like the last scary movie that I watched. But it's more like a thriller, or like a psychological thriller. I didn't find it scary. Like to me, it was just a mess. Me and my date, I was actually on a date when I seen this with this man, and we was in there like cackling. Me, him, and like some other people that was in the theater, because we was just like, "What is this?" Like that movie was so weird. See, back in the days, like again, maybe because I was a child, but like it just left a good impression of me. Like if you watch the horror films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and early 2000s, I'm talking Chucky, Child's Play, Chucky's Bride, the Wishmaster. That was good. I like that. Wrong Turn. I'm just trying to come up with it in my head. what else? What was some zombie movies and shit? Evil Dawn of Evil, Evil of the Dawn, something like that. With like zombie apocalypses. I like shit like that. That was good. Final Destination had an impression on my entire. If you're a millennial, to this day, till this day, when you're driving on the freeway or the highway, when you see a big ass semi truck that's carrying logs, big ass stick of logs, like trees, you know damn well you getting the fuck far away from that car. Why? Because you watched Final Destination. You saw how in that movie a log came out of that fucking semi truck and pierced those people through their damn car windshield, and that shit. And you saw it just literally crush their skull. And to this day, you like fuck that shit. I'm moving over 3 lanes if I got to. Cause why? Final Destination had us all fucked up. Jeepers Creepers was a good movie. I like Jeepers Creepers 1 and Jeepers Creepers 2. Jeepers Creepers 2 is a little bit more funny to me because, again, it's like 20, 30 kids on this bus, like football players and stuff, and they all, one by one, are getting picked up by they call him the creeper. He's like a bat-looking predator that literally, like, one by one, he's, like, picking these kids off because, like, he's hard to kill. Like, they would, like, hit him with something, like, he would, like, heal himself by eating somebody's like organs. And you know the song Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those eyes? So if his eye, like one of his eyes were to come out, he would eat another person's, he would eat a human being's eye and like he would literally like just grow a new set of eyes. Like that was a good movie. But the thing about Jeepers Creepers is it was like, if you think about it, instead of them abandoning the bus and running to the cornfield acting and crying and screaming like bitches, it was 30 of them damn kids in there. Why didn't they jump him? Like, jump the creeper. It's about 30 of y'all. Y'all strong football players, even the girls, the cheerleaders, come together and stomp him out. Back in the day, we had Freddy versus Jason, Freddy Krueger, the whole Nightmare on Elm Street series. We had Michael Myers, you know, Jason, like slasher films. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was good. I like the one with, I believe, Jessica Biel and Matthew McConaughey. That was the one that I saw with them that I really liked. I think it came out like in 2006 because, again, I like all genre of horror movies, but one that leaves a lasting impression on me as well as others is if it was based on a true story. And if you don't know this, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man, that shit was based on a true story. And to this day, it's just like it's just crazy how sick people can be and demented. And again, like I'm not like a dark person, but again, as a child, because my dad and his influence on me, he kind of like introduced me to horror films, and it's like even to this day, it's like I'm kind of like seeing death and things. It's kind of like it's intriguing. 13 Ghosts was a good movie because again, like even though it came out like in what 2002, 2001, so I put it into like the throwback, you know, scary movies, the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s horror. It was Chef's Kiss. It was good genre of horror because again, I was a child coming up watching all this shit, and like it just left that good of an impression on me. But to this day, as a grown woman, as an almost 30-year-old woman, if I were to watch 13 Ghosts, I would still be as shook as I was when I watched it when I was 7 years old because it was just the production. Like to this day, his name, the Juggernaut, that motherfucker looks crazy. He looks just so evil and just so strong. Like in the beginning of the fucking movie 13 Ghosts, in the opening scenes, like the first 5-10 minutes, you see him snap a man in half. Like you have no, as a viewer watching 13 Ghosts, you have no choice but to fear the Juggernaut. I don't know. I think that the movies, the scary movies of today, like the horror films, it's just so cliched and overly done. It's like we've seen it 1,000 times. Like so many people. What was the name of that scary movie that everybody and their mom told me to watch? And I tried to watch a little bit with one of my cousins at her house, and like I was like 15, 16 years old. I couldn't get into it. What is the name of that damn movie? My bad, y'all. I'm back. So I had to Google it real quick. I had to stop recording. So the movie is called Paranormal Activity. So one of my cousins, I was over her house. She was like, "Hey, let's watch this." I literally tapped out like after like 20 minutes of it. And I'm like 16 years old because I'm like, this shit was lame. And to this day, a lot of people say, "Oh, you gotta give it a chance." Like Paranormal Activity is really good, scary movie, but I don't see myself trying to watch it anytime soon. It's a vampire movie. I'm into vampire movies that somebody had told me about. I think it's on Netflix. I might watch it tonight. I ain't got shit to do. I think it's called Darkness. I don't know. It's like it's in Alaska and like it's dark for like 12 plus hours of the day. And like this like these vampires like take over this town in Alaska. I'm about to ask him what it was. I'm about to text him because like what it's something it's on the tip of my tongue, but I know it's on Netflix. If anybody knows, just tell me in the comments below and tell me if you like it. Because I like vampire movies too, not just the romantic ones. Because like as women, you know, we've been fed the Twilight and you know Vampire Diaries. Like we just love us some vampires. They're just sexy to us. But I can get into like you know vampire movies that are actually scary. So yeah, again, like scary movies today, it's just cliche. We've seen it 1,000 times. When you think about scary movies these days, I think the reason why I'm not scared, besides the fact that of course, I'm a grown woman now, it's just that if you put a scary movie on mute, it's not as scary. It's like the jumping sounds, the sound effects, the audio, the screams and stuff. like, you know, door slamming and shit. That's what gets you. What's the name of that movie that's like really Insidious? Have you ever seen Insidious? Insidious is one of those movies where it was scary in the first half of the movie, but like by the second half of the movie, it kind of lost its steam because it's like it was like watching two different movies. It was so weird. But that jump scare scene where like the creature was like right here and like he kind of looked, he didn't even notice. That was good too. But I like thrillers too. You know, like serial killer movies. Like it's a little that's terrifying because again, like because you know here in America we have I believe America, our country, we produce the most serial killers, which is crazy. So serial killers that kind of hit a little too close to home. Like that Jeffrey Dahmer shit, I can't get into. I'm like nah. I can't. I think like to me, that's the thing. Like to me, the scariest thing is not like you know demons and creatures. It's really human beings. I'm terrified of human beings because we do the most you know heinous things to each other. And but even then, like with human being scary movies, it can only get me you know so scared. Because being an adult now, you know we got bills and shit to pay. A bill opening a bill is more scary than the average scary movie to me in 2024. Like what's more scary? A movie, a horror film that's coming out in 2024, or opening your credit card bill statement. Scary movies these days suck.